Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Teas. Get some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Teas at dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Ernest James. Hey guys, this is Ernest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $eJames, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Ernest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is healed, whole, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share to our podcast on all of your social media outlets, including our YouTube page and all of the places where you can listen to the audio version of our podcast. And while you're at it, check out our partner podcast, which is the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, hosted by me also on our YouTube channel and also your podcast listening platforms. Also, make sure you guys stay to the end, because I'm going to tell you how you can win $100 from the podcast. But you got to stay until the end of the podcast in order to get that information. Now, for our next segment is our product of the week. Make sure that you guys go check us out on our website, our dealhealfulfill.org website, where you can find our products that we have. We are a self-sustained podcast, so everything that we do and the way that you support us help us to stay on the air. So if you go to our website, our dealhealfulfill.org website, you also find the links to our ebooks and to our inspirational teas. So our ebook as our product of the week this week is our ebook entitled From Males to Men. And it is the 3 steps to walking into manhood. It is a book for young men on that journey to manhood, to give them some insight, some inspiration, and some leadership guides on how to take that journey and to become better men as they journey from becoming young men into adult men. And again, make sure you guys are also checking us out on our websites, dealhealfulfill.org, which is our main company website. Also, deal2healtees.com, which is where you can get our inspirational shirts, and our ebooks by ejames.com also. But if you go to dealhealfulfill.org, you also see the links for the tees, the inspirational t-shirt link, and also the link for the ebooks is both there on that one website. So you can go there and get everything that you need. So today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Mr. Irvin. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am good. I am good. First of all, let me say thank you for being here because you could have been doing anything else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and we definitely appreciate it. So I
Thank you
wanted
for
to let you
having
know
me.
that up front. No problem. No problem. So we're going to jump right into it. So do me a favor, introduce yourself to my audience and let them know who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, hey everybody. My name is Irvin J. I help young adults gain control of their lives by teaching them the importance of their own voices. I'm a speaker, a motivational speaker. I am a preacher. I'm a teacher. I'm a counselor. And now, I'm getting into podcasting. So I'm a podcaster. I love people. I love helping people. I strive to help people any way that I can, whether just being a listening ear or just being, giving an encouraging word. But my passion is children. My passion is young people, young adults, because I feel that they need to know how important that their voices are and how important it is for their voices to be heard. So that's why it is my mission to help them to gain control of their lives first and then show them how important it is that their voices should be heard.
All right, all right. So just for my listeners, those who may be watching uh, on YouTube or wherever you're watching that, or maybe you can even hear a little bit of the similarities in our voices. So Irvin is my brother. Irvin is one of my younger brothers. Me being the oldest of the boys in our family. And so, yeah, so if you hear some similarities in how we speak, uh, and maybe even how we look in some cases, that's probably because we are related. So, so go and throw that out there
100%.
now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So go and throw that out there now, just so people know. And like Irvin said, he's getting into podcasting now, and so we are working on some things in the background that should be coming to you guys soon. So keep an eye out for that, or keep an eye or ear out for that. But Urban, let's go back a little bit, right? Because I hear you now, and you said that you are you help young people get their voices and things like that. And I know there's always a story before the story. So what was it, or should I say, let's go back a little bit, and for my audience sake, to give them a little background on who you are or who you were, right? And then what was the transition moment that made you say, you know what, I think I want to get into the speaking game to help these kids, and then to start doing what you're doing now. You know what I mean? So what's a little bit of backstory about just who you are just on a regular day, and then what was that initial thing that happened that made you say, okay, I think this is what I need to be doing to make a change in the lives of these young kids.
Well, for me, growing up, we've been taught, our parents would always teach us to be ourselves, to love ourselves, and family was very important. So growing up, we had those values, but we also ran into a lot of children that didn't have those values, and you would see how they would change in their lives. But for me, I think the turning point for me was when I had my first son. See, I got married at 19. I was 19 years old when I got married. I was 20 when I had my first child, which was my son, Junior. And I wanted to instill in him everything that was put into me. But the hardest thing for me, not instilling the thing in him, but all the influences that he will come across because I came across him too. And I know that whatever influences I came across, he's going to come across. So as him growing up and me having more children, I started putting more and more time into that. But when I started to meet their friends, it will bring back memories of the children that I grew up with. And I can see that there was a lot of brokenness and a lot of kids don't have the voice that they should have. You know, they're not easily to be able to speak up for themselves or any case, or really know that they're important. You know, I would talk to them, and I guess because I would show them attention, they kind of cling to me. You know what I'm saying? So it made me wonder, is anybody even giving them any kind of affirmation or any kind of attention or any kind of anything, you know, uplifting. So that became something for me, not just for my children, but for the children that my children know. Because as we go generation to generation, we're going to have different children come. So if we don't start now, then when should we start?
Yeah, yeah. And so I definitely understand that because, even as we were coming up, um, we definitely could tell the difference in our relationships, even with one another, from our friends and even some of our families, that weren't getting the same kind of things that we were being taught. And I was sharing this with somebody today, that one of our biggest things that we had growing up, I know what it was. I seen a post on Facebook, and they was talking about the documentary with Kurt Franklin, and there was a clip when he was doing the interview, and he was telling the two guys that were interviewing him, how he admired their relationship, as friends and brothers, because he grew up as the only child in the house with his with the woman who adopted him. She was an older woman. I think she was like in her 60s, and she didn't have no other kids. So when he would go home, it would be just him and her. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So he had no siblings. He had, even though his parents had other siblings, but
right,
because he was adopted, his adopted mother didn't have, any other kids. So it was just him. So basically he was raised without his other siblings and friends and things like that. And the only time that he would get a community of children around his age was when he went to school. So he enjoyed school, but when he got, when school was out, definitely out for the summer, he already knew he was going home to be alone, you know. And so in that conversation, I was saying that with us, it was 9 of us. So we definitely had, what I'm saying, a
more than
family.
enough.
But a lot of times, right. But a lot of times, especially when we grew up, it was just us. There
Yeah,
weren't a lot of other people or friends around. It was just us. But because of, the way we was raised with mom, she instilled that in us, that like, hey, you have to love one another and care for one another. And that built a bond with us as a family, to the point that now as adults, we still have that bond. And whenever we do something, party or get together or something like that, everybody wants to be invited. And it's not just because like we're so much fun, like the party itself or whatever
right.
is so much fun, but the getting together and the love and compassion and camaraderie that we have with one another, a lot of families don't have that. And a lot of our, be it said, a lot of our families, our cousins and other extended families and our friends didn't get that same teaching. And if they did, they don't necessarily have that same love and compassion for one another as we grew up with. Um, so getting back to you and what you do. So I know you said you help kids, find their voices. So I know one of the things that you talk about in teaching them to find their voices is you talk about boundaries. And so
Hmm.
when I talk about boundaries, I say boundaries does a couple of things. Number one, it protects others. It protects you from others. It protects others from you, and then sometimes it protects you from you, right? And so the boundaries are not just to keep things or people out, but it's also to keep things and people in. You know what I mean? So you have to use your boundaries to guide who you let in or what you let in, as well as what you let out and the things that you put out into the world. So when you're talking to these young people about boundaries, what is some of the things that you teach them in order to be able to use their voice to and how that translates with them using their boundaries as part of using their voice?
Well, with boundaries is the number one thing. The first thing that they have to learn, they have to learn themselves. You have to know who you are. What are the things that you like? What are the things that you don't like? What are the core value things that you hold? Once you learn that, then after you learn yourself, because you can't teach other people anything until you know who you are, right? So learn yourself. What do I like? Do I like this? Do I like being here? Do I like listen to this, or do I not like listen to this? And why don't I like listening to it? See, sometimes we learn how to do things and say we like this or we don't like that, and most of the times it's because of the environment that we're in or the people that we're always around. But we never
Mhm.
actually took the time to say, do I really like jazz, or do I really like opera, or is it just something that I've become accustomed to, that I felt like, oh, this must be what I like because this is what I've always heard. So no, first know yourself. Learn who you are. What are the core value things that you hold dear? Like for us and for me, is God first, family second, and then society, which is everybody else. Those are my core things. God first because of my belief. Do I believe in me? What do I believe about myself? And then my family. Who are those that surround me that make me feel comfortable with who I am? And once I learned that, now it's easy for me to articulate that to the society, whoever else comes around. So that's first. And then second, it teaches you how to not be easily influenced. And that's where, if you know yourself, then you won't be so easily to accept any or everything that you hear. Oh, we're going here because this sounds good. But if you don't like it, then you can easily be like, oh no, I don't really like doing that, or I don't like doing this. And oh, but come on, you with us. Peer pressure is a real thing. We learned that growing up, even as kids. Hey man, we finna go to thus and such. Oh well, I don't really want to go over there. Oh, come on, man, stop being a punk and da da da. And you like, oh well, I don't want them to think I'm soft. No, you have to know yourself. If you're not comfortable, you have to be able to say, I'm not comfortable. I don't want to do it. And make people respect that, which is the third part of boundaries. You have to teach people how to treat you. If you don't teach them how to treat you, then they'll just treat you any kind of way. You have to teach them how to love you and respect you. If you love me and I say this and that, then you will respect me enough to give me what I ask. If I say, hey, give me space, you respect me enough to give me space. But if I don't know that about myself, that I don't like people being too close up on me, close to my face, or what I'm saying, crowding my how they say, crowd my circle. If I don't like my circle being crowded, then it's easy for me to say, hey, I don't like my circle being crowded. Just step back a couple of feet. So that's the main thing with boundaries. You got to learn yourself and then teach people how to respect you.
Right, right. And I remember even growing up, that definitely has always been my thing, that I've been blessed to know who I was at a very young age, and have my own mind. And so even like you said, one of the first things with boundaries is first of all knowing yourself. And so I remember, like I said, I always had my own mind, even growing up, and I already had my ideas of what I was going to do and what I wasn't going to do. And so most of the guys when we grew up, they started drinking and smoking early. You know what I mean? And so they was like, hey, won't you try this? And won't you get in with this? And I was like, nah, I'm good, because that wasn't something I wanted to do. And even to this day, when I go hang out with, some of our family and friends that we grew up with, they still will say, hey, you wanted to smoke this? You want to drink this? Knowing that I'm going to say no, but it still is like the running joke that they will still ask. But I always had my own mind. So even though I was in some of those spaces, hanging around with those guys as they were doing these things, I didn't feel pressured to do or to join in with some of the things that they were doing, because I knew exactly who I was, and I had already made a decision for myself that that was not something that I was going to do. So
Exactly.
it was easy for me to say, "No, I'm good on that," because that's not me, right? So one of the other things that you talked about with using that voice is learning how to speak up, And so I know in this community that we are in this time that we're living in, we're getting a lot of voices and a lot of people saying a lot of stuff. Um, Especially with the podcast real, some of it is good and some of it is bad.
Yeah.
I think it's good that everyone has a chance to spread their message and use their voice. But
Express yourself.
unfortunately, some of the messages, like, you could have kept that to yourself, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So even when you're talking to the young kids about speaking up and using their voice, what are some of the things that you teach them, even in that aspect, to be able to use their voice for the things that they want to see done in this world?
So once you learn yourself and you make people to respect your boundaries, respect your beliefs, or whatever it is that you hold your core values, make people respect that. Once you do that, then you're able to speak change into the world. You're able to speak up for others, speak up for yourself first. I don't like this, I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? And make people respect that, because you have some people that, like you said, even I used to smoke and drink, a young kid. With you chose not to. For me, eh, I started, I took a different route. You know what I'm saying? And but what's crazy though, even in doing that, even the things that I chose to do, because those core values that our parents put in us, even though I smoke or I drank, there was still a limitation of certain things that I still wouldn't do. It didn't even matter. Yeah, I might smoke a little weed, but I'm not smoking that or this. You know what I'm saying? Or I might drunk a little old English, but I'm not finna drink this or that. And you will be around people that say, "Well, man, you drunk this, you might as well try this." Everybody wants you to try something. Well, you already smoked, you might as well try this. So if you haven't established a boundary for yourself, then it's hard for you to make people to respect whatever boundaries that you have, because you'll speak up and they'll pressure you and they'll keep saying, "Come on, come on, come on." And if you don't have enough strength in yourself, then you're going to give into it. That's that easy influence part. So once you've got your values, once you got your boundaries, hey, I'm not going this far, that far. So once you're able to do that, then you're able to also speak up for other people. Because if you're in a group and you see that somebody's trying to take advantage of somebody who might be a little more weaker, don't really have their voice to speak out, you have enough strength and belief in yourself to speak for that person. That's that change. I'm not just looking out for me, I'm looking out for my fellow man, my friend, my neighbor, my cousin, my best friend, or whoever it is, or just somebody that just happened to be around me at that time, because I don't know what their story is. Maybe nobody really told them that they're important. Maybe nobody told them what boundaries really were. So they were used to being used and abused. Well, you're not going to be using the bruise around me, because I know how to respect myself. And because of that, I can help other people to respect you. I can do as much as I can when you're around me. So sometimes just doing that little bit will give somebody else, like, oh, somebody actually care about me, to step in my defense. So that's that change in the world. And once you do that, then it's easy for you to speak up against a lot of things you don't like, or a lot of things that aren't good. You know, people taking advantages of children, or people taking advantages of the elderly, or whatever it is. You're able to speak up against those things, because you know what's right and what's wrong, and you always become comfortable in yourself, and you become comfortable to stand in defense of somebody who might not have nobody to stand in their defense, and you can spark that change that's needed to be seen.
Yeah, and I think that's a important thing to even mention with that standing up for others. And it's funny how once you start doing that, how it travels, right? And sometimes you don't even recognize it. So I remember talking to someone recently about being bullied, when I was younger, and somebody
You
coming
want
and
it?
to an extent, to an extent, to an extent, right? But I just don't mean like physically, even just verbally. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because it's a lot of differences in the way that people approach it. But I remember someone standing up for me, and when I was younger, and then I remember even as a teenager, one of my friends or someone that was that I knew who had started being bullied by these two guys, and I stood up for him. It's like, hey, leave him alone or whatever. And fast forward even further with my daughter, I remember her calling me one day and telling me, "Hey, Daddy, one of my friends were being picked on from some of her other friends. It's like they were in the group, and this young lady was a friend outside of her regular friend group, and her friend group had started, bullying this young lady who was also her friend, and how she was able to stand up in defense of her friends and no, don't bully her, leave her alone or whatever. And it just goes to show, how you using your voice, or should I say, someone even using their voice on your behalf, how that can even inspire you to use your voice, and how even without you even recognizing or knowing that just by your example, even though my daughter wasn't even born when that happened, with me standing up for someone else. But I guess because of it, because of that being a part of who I am, when she was born, it was just born in her to be able to use her voice for that same thing, to be able to stand up clearly and who she is, which is one of the things that I instilled in her, was having that confidence within herself. But not only that confidence to use your voice for you, but then also that confidence to use your voice to help someone else. And I think it's one of those things that just with her was kind of born in her, but it came out of me using my voice, even what I do now, and I've had her on the podcast, even me having that using my voice to be able to give uh inspiration, or speak on things that will help other people. So I think that all plays a part in it. And not only that, really to be able to use your voice kind of goes into one of the other things that you talk about too, which is becoming a leader. Because once you're able to use your voice, you're able to guide and direct others. You know what I mean? And so that becomes part of your tools to be able to be a leader and to lead other people. So when you're talking to the younger generation about even being a young leader, what are some of the things that you teach them about how to use their voice in that case?
Well, in being a young leader, you learn your boundaries, you step up for other people, and then when becoming a leader, you start to be the change that you want to see. See, it's easy for people to say, "Oh, this shouldn't do that," or "You shouldn't do this or that," another. It's either to speak it, but sometimes for some people, they don't really like to take on the title of leader. So if you don't want to take on the title of leader, then just be a guide, because a guide does the same thing. If I'm guiding you, I'm sending you or taking you to a place that's more safe or more comfortable, that you're going to have a better outcome. And that's what being a leader is. A leader is just being somebody to guide. You want to see the change, be the change. You know what I'm saying? And once you're the change, then that inspires and motivates other people to want to do the same. If I'm in a group of guys and they say, "Hey, let's go do this," and I say, "Nah, I don't think we want to do that," and they're like, "Oh man, you guys are punks," and it's like, "Okay, well, we're just gonna be punks today. We're not gonna go do that." You're the one that's speaking up, because the other ones, they're too afraid to speak up. So because you speaking up, they're like, "Yeah, man, we just gonna stay," and they go about their way. So now you just sparked something into somebody else and motivated them to actually try to be the change that you want to see. And once you start doing that, then you give somebody courage to do action. You know what I'm saying? Now they're able to actually step up and be like, "No, man, we together. We don't want to do this, or we don't believe in that." And that's what being a leader is. A leader is having that voice to have that strength to stand up and say, no, that's not right, or no, that's not good. Because if you don't, who's to say if anybody's going to take advantage of that person or them people? Take advantage of a group of people. It's crazy because one of the incidents when we were younger, um, I was walking with one of my close friends, and we were like maybe a block, about a half a block away from his house, right? And there was a group of guys, group of gangbangers. They were all talking and laughing, whatever. And we were walking past the house. So because we were walking past the house, they jumped off the porch, surrounded us. I don't even know how many guys it was. They surrounded us. They was talking crazy, whatever, whatever. And but they knew that we were church boys. They knew because we lived on the block. So after a few minutes or whatever, they was like, "Oh, leave them church boys alone." So we started walking off. They let us go. And when we were walking, we were crossing the street. And my friend, I seen him starting to run, and he said, "Irv, run." And I'm wondering, why is he telling me to run? So when I turned around, one of the guys was coming at me full force with a broom. He's about to knock my block off. You know what I'm saying? So I started to run. And if you know anything about the city, they got the high curves. Anyway, I was running and I tried to jump the high curve, and my sandal got caught and I went down to the ground. I'm down for the count. I rolled over, and when I jumped up, out of nowhere, I don't even know where she came from. My best friend, his mom, she came all the way from about 7, 8 houses down. I don't even know how she got down there that fast. But she jumped in front of me and she hollered at the boy and she was like, "Stop." And he stopped and turned around and walked away. I've never forgot that. I never forgot that. That was something that held dear to me because it's like, he don't even know you. I know you because you're my best friend's mother. He don't even know you. He could have swung and been swinging at both of us. You know what I'm saying? But because you had the confidence in yourself to stand up and say, "No, this is not right," he actually listened and turned and walked away. And that stuck with me. That really stuck with me. And I always think about that, especially when I'm teaching the young people, about their boundaries, about speaking up for others, and about becoming a leader. I always remember that. And every time I see her, I always tell her, I ain't never forgot the time you jumped in front of me. That young boy, because they was gang bangers. Nowadays, when you hear about people who are in gangs, a lot of people say, "Oh, they don't have no respect for nobody. They don't have respect for the elders. They don't have respect for children." Da 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 da. But to experience something like that at a young age, that really sparked something with me. So for that young man, it was like there was something that was instilled in him, even though he was in a gang. There was something that was instilled in him that made him respect his elders. So you never know where somebody comes from just because of the choices that they're making right now. Everybody has the opportunity to make a choice. Everybody don't always able to make the right or the same choices. But sometimes you have to try to make a change in them. Reach down and get the things that are good out of them. Because some of them really don't even know how to do it.
Yeah, and that goes back to one of the things you were saying earlier about learning to know yourself. You know what I mean? So even in his case, maybe he was only following the crowd to fit in. Maybe he was a church boy too, that were raised in the church, and raised to respect his elders, but he was trying to fit in with everyone else. And a lot of times, as we know, when you're trying to fit in and prove yourself, sometimes you go over and above.
Over and above.
So that's probably why he was the one that came running up with the broom, because he's trying to prove to everyone else that he's just as hard as them, just as down as them. But when confronted, with someone who's able to stand up on their own too and use their voice, for what they believe in, and also probably connected with him from the voices that he had probably heard at home from his parents, or
Exactly.
who was raising him to do better, that he had no choice but to, fall in line with those voices that were standing up, and then maybe even that day, just as you remember, maybe he even remembers it. Maybe that same moment was a defining moment within him that said, you know what, let me stop doing this that I'm doing and turn
Exactly.
around and use my energy for good. So we definitely can pray that that was a turning point in his life also, you know.
Yeah.
So Irvin, I definitely appreciate you being on. Definitely, I hope that uh, the listeners enjoy this conversation that we're having, because we're definitely going to have more of the same. We're definitely working on some things, maybe even a new podcast to bring to the listeners. So that's something that we'll be working on. But I want you to have the last word, and I want you to leave the listeners with a word of advice, information, inspiration, however you decide to do it. I just want you to have the last word, and then to let people know where they can find you, as far as to follow you, social media handles and things like that, if you have any. So I'll let you think about that for a second. While you thinking about that, to my listeners, first of all, thank you guys for tuning in again to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Make sure that you guys, let me, first of all, before I even go there, one of the things that I'm proud to be a part of is a organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And one of the things that we do, we have a free virtual workshop every quarter of the year. And we talk about forgiveness, what it is, what it's not, who is forgiveness for, you know, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of the world, all of those things. And so I definitely want you guys to check it out, because whenever you're hearing this podcast, either one just ended or there's one coming up. And so again, there are free virtual workshops. You can go to forgivenessmission.com, or you can go to Eventbrite and just look up forgiveness workshop in order to register for the next one, which should be coming up soon. Right. So make sure that you guys go check that out. Also, make sure that you guys are checking us out on our websites. We mentioned them earlier, dealhealfulfill.org, which is our main workshop, or should I say my main work site. I mean, website. Also, we got deal2healtees.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. So you can get your inspirational tees from deal2healtees.com. And also the ebooks at ebooksbyejames.com. Definitely remember our product of the week. Today was our ebook of From Males to Men, the 3 steps to walking into manhood. So those books are available, as well as others, on ebooksbyejames.com. So make sure that you guys are checking that out. Last but not least, I told you guys that you can win $100 from the podcast. So how would you do that? You must subscribe to our super, or should I say, you must enter our super subscriber contest, which means you must first subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our Facebook page, and to our podcast on Spotify, and then text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. The contest is ongoing and is random, which means that anytime I can pick a name, and once you're in, you're always in, and you can always win. So make sure you guys enter our super subscriber contest for your chance to win $100. Again, Urban, thank you so very much for being on, for coming on, sharing your expertise with our listeners. And I want you to have the last word. Again, I definitely appreciate you being on. That being said, you can have the last word. The floor is yours.
Okay, well, right now, I'm creating my very first podcast, the Pyramid to Life podcast. I will be letting Ernest know when the first showings are going to be popping up. I'm doing the videos now. Um, as far as those that are listening, don't be afraid to set your own boundaries. Don't be afraid to speak up, and don't be afraid to become a leader or a guide. Because for me, I believe that the more that you know how to get in control of yourself, then the more that you know how powerful your voice is. And once you get the power of your voice, you can spark the change in the environment that surrounds you. So, with that, be blessed.
All right, all right. We can't end the note better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in once again to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help people to deal to heal and to fulfill, to deal with our problem, deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.